Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. Which one do you like? They're all pretty good. None of them are the weekend though, are they? Probably Friday. I don't know about that. Jim Jefferies. There you go.
Why did you
Oh, I'm glad you ended it early.
Yeah.
Did I end it early?
Yeah. This is the first time Forrest has been in charge of the electronics.
Yeah.
And he had
His
to
computer's still in the shop.
He had to press it.
It's done, but
Kelly's not with us today because he's out of town. And But why did I what?
You didn't start with Monday.
No, because no one likes Monday. I have to have
Saturday,
options.
Sunday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Everyone has got opinions on those days. Everyone's got the same opinion on Mondays. Mondays suck.
No good.
Mondays suck.
Even
Even if you have a Monday off, all the good restaurants are shut.
It's true.
Yeah.
I had a job where I had Tuesdays and Wednesdays off, so that was like my weekend.
Yeah. No, you can
change it up.
You can have a good night on a Tuesday. Mm-hmm. There's no fun to be had on a Monday. You can't fight it.
That's true. The restaurants are really closed.
Yeah,
the Asian ones for sure, which are great.
Yeah. No,
they don't work Mondays.
Nothing with a good chef. He's not working. That's his day off.
Good point. Good way.
So I just want to thank whoever threw the Montreal Expos hat on that I'm obviously wearing. When you threw it on stage, I didn't pick it up when I was waving to the people after the end of the show because nut jobs throw stupid shit up there sometimes. So I try to avoid it. Could have been anthrax. It wasn't just a hat.
I've got I've had a lot of questions about the Patreon, and I don't know if we want to.
We're not doing it.
Yeah, okay. But I officially want to say for on the podcast. Yeah,
so no, we're not going to do it.
We've had, sometimes it's been on, sometimes it's been off.
We've never charged anyone for listening to the Patreon if it hasn't. But the problem I had.
No, we charge people, but if it wasn't on.
No. If we charge people for receiving a product. But if the product wasn't there, we didn't charge people.
No.
But my problem is we had so many great Patreon episodes. And I would have liked for the general public. None of you cunts fucking paid $1 a week to listen to it. So that's it. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. Well, some people did, but I just wanted more people to hear those things. And it's like we were going to do a Patreon for that live Titanic one, and then I enjoyed that one so much that I really wanted just to release it. And look, I'll just keep reading ads. I guess that's what I'll do.
Yeah,
keep reading ads.
So this is an official now. We might have to even put this out on Instagram because I had people saying stuff, and I said, well, we haven't had a chance to announce it since but
we didn't really decide till like a week ago anyway.
So. All right, I got to tell you what my week was though. You two already know, but the general public
needs to know about what went down.
So I did perform in Montreal. Lovely, big week of gigs in Canada. Really far apart from each other. Yep. Really hard to get to. Thanks booking agents who took no responsibility when I
easy routing.
When I asked you why am I going here? No responsibility, none.
Yeah, that was an easy one to find bookings for, too.
Oh.
To get in between was really tough to figure that out.
It was road warrior shit, man. I was on the road each day. So we played Kingston, lovely little university town. I believe Elon Musk went to university there. It's a lovely little place. And we finished the gig, and then the next day I woke up at about midday, and we were on our way to the last gig in Ottawa, Ontario. And I woke up and I felt a little bit of a twinge in my side, and I've had diverticulitis before, so I thought, maybe I've got that again. You know what I mean? Oh, it's a bit sore. I've been having sesame seeds. Who knows? And then I got in the car. I'm feeling a bit more, and then I was killed over in pain within seconds, and I assumed that my appendix had smashed, and I said we have to go to the emergency room, and it was just like. We were in traffic, and even you can't turn right on a red light. No, you can. You're just going to do it today, Anyway, so eventually we get into the emergency ward, and I came in, and there was several people who were sitting in the emergency ward who had been to the gig the night before, including the nurse and the doctor who I see later on. So everyone had been at the bloody gig, right?
Excellent.
And I was crying, just and because I'm not a Canadian resident, I didn't get the free healthcare, so they're making me sign things. I literally did sign an X on one thing, and I couldn't sit down because that was crinkling my body, and so I was hugging a pole in the middle, people came out, love the show last night, thank you! Thank you so much. There was one person that got
Nobody asked you what was wrong with you?
Well, they said, are you feeling pain?
I think so.
Fans of the show, I'm saying.
Yeah, if it was a busted appendix, it takes like 48 hours, so there was no hurry to do that. You know, the emergency rooms, they're really going head and heart. If you're having a stroke, they let you through. If you have a heart condition, they let you through.
Heart, get right through.
Yeah.
You should have said, I had a pain in my heart.
Yeah,
it's moved to here.
Yeah, it started here,
but this feeling in the side, they can make you comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So someone came out and gave me an injection. It wasn't cutting the mustard. I was still in so much pain. And then eventually there was even one person that went, I think Jim should go before me. He looks a lot more like Canadians. God bless them. Thank you so much, right? But I said, no, you go first. I'll wait my turn. So eventually...
Why'd you do that? You were afraid they were going to say like...
I don't want to be, but I was big fucking
Diva.
shooting myself, right? I was big. Anyway, so I get through, and the doctor comes up. Oh, I was at the show, and then she goes, you've probably got a burst appendix. We're going to do an MRI, and they give me a shot of morphine. By the way, morphine. It was something more powerful than morphine. It was in between morphine
Super
and fentanyl.
morphine.
It was something in between that. I forgot the name of it because I was wiped out during the whole thing. But it was an opiate, right? And
Dilaudid?
Whatever it was.
Good one.
Well done. Well done. To all those hillbillies on heroin that are fucking taking oxys all the time that I've mocked in the past,
No.
I see what you're doing. I
report them now?
Yeah. No, I don't support you, but I get what's happened there. I understand completely what's happened there.
Where would you rank it with Imodium?
It does the job just like Imodium does, but it's faster acting than Imodium.
Yeah.
Imodium might take a couple of goes before it really kicks in.
I think it's better than Imodium because, like, let's say you had to shit yourself, you could take Imodium, but if you took a painkiller, you'd still might shit yourself, but you'd still feel good about it. Yeah,
I was like So by this stage, my management had found out and they'd rung the hospital because they're worried about my next show starting, right? So they're like, we believe you have a show, and I'm on so much of this morphine. I'm like, don't worry about it. Let me stay here for a week or two, right? And then anyway, so they go in, and I still could feel pain, and they go in, they go, you have a really large kidney stone. And they go, you're in much worse pain than a burst appendix, like substantially more pain. And they gave me 2 more shots of whatever the morphine was.
The magic sauce.
And now I'm just rolling around laughing. Like that. And they tell me, there's not a lot we can do. We can just manage your pain. It's going to pass through. 6mm job I had. 6mm rock.
Yep.
Sounds pretty big.
You have to pass it from your kidney down to your bladder. And that is like, that cable there is like thread width. It's 1/5 of the side of your urethra. Everyone worries about the penis, right? Going down the penis.
So that's the part that's like the snake and the rat, where it's just like a lump.
It's just going through, cutting your insides. You start getting blood in your urine, right? And you're trying to pass.
Just being squeezed through this little tiny
And
vessel.
every time it moves a millimeter, you're just like this. Like that, right? Like, it was as much pain. They say it's worse than childbirth. I know I get in trouble every time I mention something being worse than childbirth.
Didn't you say it was a woman doctor?
A female doctor said to me, she said, this is much worse than childbirth. Another nurse or doctor said, I've had 4 children, 2 kidney stones. The kidney stones were worse.
All right, so you've done it.
And if you go online, people say it's worse because it's not like labor pains where it comes and it goes. This is a constant, you're fucking dying, right? Anyway, so I don't remember anything from that moment on. All I remember is I did the show. It was a 2-hour
Wait, that was a show in Kingston?
No, Kingston was the show I did the night before.
What was this show?
We went to Ottawa.
Ottawa, yeah, sorry.
And we drove 2 hours from Kingston. Yeah. I was smacked out. And all I can remember is being on stage, and because there was 5,000 people in the audience, so they had the big screens up.
Yeah.
And every time I looked, I hadn't done my hair or anything like that. It was all matted down. I hadn't put the flakes in or anything like that. And I was just sweating profusely like this, right? And I looked like a fuck. I looked like, you know that last concert of Elvis when he's singing Unchained Melody?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he crushes it.
Allegedly, I had a good show.
Tommy, your opener, Tommy Campbell, texted me and sent me photos going, Jim is crushing right now. And I don't know why he sent that. I didn't know he had this kidney stone until he came back home.
I probably put more effort in because I thought I better just put a bit of showmanship into the whole thing. Anyway, so just
wait, which there? Okay, I've got some of the reviews here. They're all good. Look at it. Back when you were drinking, I've done some shows with you where I'm like, I don't think you're conscious right now. Like, you are conscious, but there's like And I've seen you perform. I'm like, wow, okay, like hats off. You remembered all the jokes. You did all the act outs.
Yeah, blind.
Jim had the entire venue laughing for the entirety of the show.
Yeah, that's what you want to do.
Yeah, more time for 2 hours. Did it 2 hours?
Well, I lost track of time, but when we did the meet and greet, I had to have a chair to sit down in between. You know, I must have done a lot of it. So
there you go. This man is passing a kidney stone and still put on one of the funniest performances I've seen to date. Can't recommend him. We're related one honest comic. All right. Great way to spend a Saturday night. That's all they wrote. It's a very fine line to walk in order to be a storyteller who is gut-busting hilarious while simultaneously insulting everyone in the room and being entirely self-deprecating. Performed 2 straight hours after spending the day in the hospital.
Yeah. So I finish off, and then like when the stone moves to your bladder, you're all right for a bit, right? There's a small window. I had a 12-hour travel day from the moment I left my house to the moment I got from door to door because I had to change flights, and then it was delayed, and I had to, and so the last hour of the flight home, the kidney stone started to move again. Right? Yeah. And I was back and I was sitting
because you called me in between that.
Yeah.
And you seemed okay.
Yeah, no, I was fine for 10 hours. I was fine because the
and I was like,
kidney stone was just floating around in piss in me bladder. It hadn't made its way to the next bit of its life, right? And I called Forrest up and I said, I don't know. I think if it starts to go on the plane, they say it's the number one cause of aeroplanes landing early. Because people think their appendix have ruptured, and so they have to land. Kidney stones are the number one reason that planes have to emergency land. So I was just like, I started getting the pain, and I was just like, not even making the noise. I was just like this. Next to this Asian woman who couldn't speak a lick of English. And I was like, had to go to the toilet all the time. I'm sitting window. We should swap. Me and you should swap. She didn't understand shit. I kept on saying, I have to get out again. And she's like, oh, this fucking guy.
I mean, luckily you knew that it was kidney stones before getting on the plane because if you experienced that on the plane, then it probably would have landed.
You would have thought you were dying.
So in the end, I had a bucket beside my bed. Right? I had this doctor that kept on talking, that used to ring me up every hour and took me off the ledge. I think I'm dying. And he's like, no, you're all right. You're just in the weeds right now. I had another real bad bit. And then I was laying on my side. You
sounded terrible when I talked to you when you're back.
Jack.
We had to move this podcast.
Jack had to take me out to get pain meds, right? Because I'd run out of pain meds. The Canadians give you 1 day's worth, right? They don't give you
trust Americans. Yeah,
they don't trust you. And so I had to get more pain meds. And I was like squatting down in the CVS.
Yeah, we're here in line. I have a photo of him just squatting in line.
This was a pain now.
This is about 2 hours before I passed it, right? This is about 2 hours before I was fine, right? And I'm squatting in the line, and I went up and I went, there's my insurance and there's my license. And the guy's like this, your medicine's going to be ready in about 20 minutes. Can
he come back instead of me?
I said, I can't sit here for 20 minutes.
Yeah, you could just pick it up for him.
Yeah, and I said, can he come back and get it? And they said, sure. And I went, thank you. And then I walked out.
And then we got caught behind a really slow old couple trying to get out.
Oh, yeah. So an old couple walking along. Even with a kidney stone, I walk faster than people in their 80s. I've got more of a spring in me step, right? Because I go, get out of my way. And I sort of jogged past them. Anyway, I'm laying on my side, and I had a bucket next to the bed, like a Halloween bucket. Now, this is a funny story because I was on Triple M, and to add to the story, I said it was a metal bucket because it did.
You want the sound?
Yeah, I wanted the sound. I said it was like champagne. I lied. I said it was a champagne bucket because afterwards I get off, and Jack was like this. I don't know what to think anymore. Just you make shit up. He's just like, I didn't know you lied so much like this.
Can't believe I got in your head. I was fucking with you.
It was a Halloween bucket, right? But it still made. I was laying on the side and I pissed and it made a dunk. Like I wanted like a metal bucket, like the rock,
like a bullet. You wanted like a bullet in a metal thing.
Yeah. You want it like a spittoon.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, so it hit the side of the plastic bucket and went dunk. Like that, like in the thing. And then like the doctor called me up and he's like, hey, how you feeling? I said, actually, I've been feeling really bad. And you got the extra pain meds? Yeah, I got the extra pain meds. And then I could see it. I just reached into the bucket of piss and I just pulled it out. I was like, I've got it.
You felt better.
And then it came out in 3 sections.
Yeah, no,
came out in 3 sections. Anyway, I got some gigs to promote.
Yeah. This week, Thousand Oaks.
Thousand Oaks, baby.
California.
Come and see me. Thousand Oaks is pretty much all sold out. That one's pretty much all sold out.
Oakland, October 6th.
Oakland is not sold out. Come and see me in Oakland. I'm flying up. And Anaheim.
2 shows in Anaheim on October 7th.
Early show sold out. Late show has tickets.
Okay. Then the 2 weeks after that, October 19th, Cincinnati, Ohio.
I have no idea how that's going.
October 20th, Chicago, and October 21st.
Chicago and New York. First show sold out. Second show, still tickets available.
Then you're going.
They added shows.
Then that's October 20th and 21st at the Chicago Theater.
Yeah.
October 24th, Tel Aviv, going to go do that gig.
Tel Aviv, it's like a 5,000 seat venue. There's like 800 tickets left, but they'll go pretty quick.
Galway, Ireland, Galway Comedy Festival,
There's
October 25th.
Three gigs there. 2 of them, I believe, are sold out, and they added another show, and that show's got plenty of tickets, but they'll go quick.
And they need to add it to your website, but there's 2 shows in New York on November 3rd and November 2nd. If you click on tickets from November 3rd, it'll take you November 2nd, but it'll probably be added on there by the time.
Yeah. We'll get that on there.
So, and a bunch of other dates: Austin, Dallas.
Make a note of that.
Austin, Dallas, Tulsa.
They're all miles away. We don't have to sell those
Tysons,
tickets,
Virginia, which is basically Washington, D.C.
That's where the chicken comes from.
Yeah. And IDCAP Podcast on Instagram. Follow us on there. We'll put clips on there. You can find out about like if we have a live podcast or any other announcements.
I have a photo of the stone. I might
Patreon.
actually bring the stone in. For one of the things. I've only got a third of the stone, but there's a doctor picking it up tomorrow to take it to check it out. I have to drop it off to check it out to see if what's given me kidney stones, but I really want it back. I'd like to
put in a little jar.
Yeah,
make like a necklace out of it or something.
Yeah, something. Make some jewelry for my wife.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
You know, because
a ring.
We just had our 3rd year wedding anniversary.
Yeah, stone. I think that's 3rd year.
You know what happens?
Rock.
You know what happens, right? I look. I don't keep my wife secret. If you watch my stand-up, I talk about it constantly.
Keep her secret.
Yeah, we talk about
not
it.
Locked in a basement.
No,
she exists.
We talk about her all the time on the podcast, and I love my wife more than anything. But I'm always hesitant to post pictures of her because whenever I post a picture, you all shit on me. Everyone shits on me.
Oh, out there, yeah.
The general public just goes, your wife's beautiful, you're a troll. Yeah. Right? That's the general gist of the whole thing, right?
Yeah, but,
and my wife loves it. She's just sitting there. But it's also, my wife's 32, right? Yeah. She's not 20. She's 32.
Yeah.
She looks young for 32, mind you.
Yeah.
But it's like, I get told like I'm a pedophile because my wife's young looking or something. What do I look like, a fucking burn victim? What's wrong with me? I'm okay.
She looks young. She looks younger than her age.
She looks younger than her age. Yeah. But she's punching above her, he's punching above his weight. And then they just start getting outright mean about it. They just start going, she's going to leave you and take half your money. That's another fun one. or
she signed a piece of paper.
Or she's just with you because you have money. All these things. What a fucking cunty thing to say.
I'd love to be in that situation. That sounds good.
Look, you don't want it the other way around. Okay, so I'm complaining about having a hot wife, right?
Yeah.
Right, so I'll take it back a step.
Yeah.
I am complaining about having a hot wife.
I would love to be in that situation.
Yeah, because this is the whole thing. You don't want people...
But you could be doing better with that. The amount of money you have?
Yeah.
You should be crushing it.
Yeah, you don't want to see the two of us next to each other and people going, that tracks.
Oh, geez.
No, you don't want that.
I thought you were doing better than that.
Like, you don't want that.
So I'm in a theater. I thought it was...
Yeah. You know what?
You guys are meant for each other.
You don't want... I admire you and your love of personality.
So anyways, IDCAP Podcast, Instagram, JimJefferies.com for all tour dates. Listen to my podcast too, please. The Mermen Podcast. We just did a tour through Florida. We did our first live podcast. Woo! Went awesome. Got a lot of new listeners and stuff. So the Mermen Podcast with me and Dave Williamson and forshaw.net is my website, all my dates and stuff. I got a bunch of dates with Jim and then my own dates in San Diego and Orlando. I'm recording an album. Anyways, let's get to our guest.
All right.
Please welcome our guest, Robert Fadley.
G'day, Robert. Now it's time to play.
Yes, no.
Yes, good work, Forrest.
Yes, no.
Solid.
Yes, no.
Judging
a book by its cover.
All right. Okay. So, we know that's not your studio. I was about to say that you're some expert in guitars or a session musician. Do you work in the music industry?
Absolutely. Yes, I do.
All right. Are you in a band?
I am in a band, yeah.
You look familiar. Should I know?
That's the lead singer of Maroon 5.
No, it's not the lead singer, Maroon 5. I know that guy.
I couldn't remember his name. Adam Levine.
Even I know Adam Levine.
I know, but I couldn't remember his name.
All right, so is our topic music based?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay. Is it... Is it about a very famous band? Are we going to talk about?
Yeah, I already said you're going to like this topic.
Is it the Beatles?
Yeah, it's the Beatles.
Yeah. I'm excited.
I said, Jim, you're going to like our topic. You're going to be interested in whatever. And as soon as you said music, I'm like, you're probably going to get it now.
I like the Beatles.
I gave a little bit too much of a thing. Robert Fadley is a music historian and journalist from Harrisonburg, Virginia. He has a degree
named after George Harrison.
That's right.
I'm not sure, but
Yeah, it is.
yeah, okay,
I'll
cool.
take that.
He has a degree from James Madison University and has been to over 1,600 concerts and festivals and is a full-time musician performing solo and with his band Love Dog. That's DAWG. You can find him on TikTok at Jam Band Purist or his website, jambandpurist.com.
Nice.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself, Robert.
Absolutely. Yeah, I fell in love with music at an early age, and the Beatles was one of my favorite bands. So I dived in head first, and from there, everything 60s, 70s. I just love it, and I've seen well over 1,600 concerts, and I've seen this band Widespread Panic 98 times.
Oh, nice.
That's the Jam Band Purist. That's right. Yeah,
that's that part. But it also, I mean, to say that the Beatles weren't a jam band, I'm not. They were a jam band. They jammed together. You could see it. You can watch it on tape.
Yeah, man.
Oh, okay. All right. I wouldn't doubt we should ask that as a question. But
you watched the Let It Be or the Get Back documentary, though.
I still haven't seen it.
Exactly.
They pulled it off of Disney Plus.
All the stuff they did on why did they pull it off Disney
I have
Plus
no
for?
idea. It's their series. I don't know why it's
they're going to try to sell it on Blu-ray or something like that. Do we still have Blu-rays?
Yeah, I do.
All right, Robert, I'm going to ask Jim a series of questions about the Beatles, and when he's done answering them, you're going to grade him on his accuracy, 0 through 10. Kelly's not here. I'll grade him on. You grade him on confidence.
Okay.
Jack, I'll grade him on etc. We'll add those all together. I didn't put categories in there. 0 through 10, the Eftels. 11 through 20, the Seatles, and 21 through 30, the Beatles.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
I was on the fly. I just did it there. Feetles. Feetles, alcohol syndrome, and Seatles and Beatles.
All right.
Okay.
Great.
Worst one ever. Some of these you'll get, and I think we had some harder ones.
The thing is, I'm a fan, but I don't know if I'm an historian of the band. But I give me a go.
Okay, who are the Beatles? Give us a brief description of the members and how they got started. Brief.
The Beatles are John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. They are four lads from Liverpool who started out in a band. They had a different drummer called Pete Best, and then about 1963 they swapped over to Ringo Starr.
Do you know the original band name?
The Quarrymen would have been the original band name by John Lennon, but that was never really one that Paul or anything was in. They were the Beatles pretty quickly after that. They had another guy, Stu Sutcliffe, in the band for a brief while who died of a brain.
Stu Sutcliffe.
Yeah. He was played by. He was a movie called Backbeat, and he was played by Stephen Dorff. And he died of a brain hemorrhage. He was like a good-looking fella.
All right. What are key milestones and events in the Beatles' career that contributed to the rise to global fame in the 1960s?
Well, Beatlemania. What you want to know? What happened to the rise?
Key milestones, like events.
Okay,
maybe.
so your big events would be when Ringo Starr moved over from Raw Story and the Hurricanes, and then they would have. So they have their first album, first singles. Love Me Do would be a big event. Was when they meeting George Martin, the producer. Brian Epstein coming down to see him at the Cavern would have been a big moment. And then the biggest moment of all was the Ed Sullivan show where they sang I Want to Hold Your Hand, and that would have been like your biggest sort of, that's when the world, but before that they were being played at nauseum on the radio, and trying to get into that show was very difficult.
What about their evolution from early rock and roll sound to their more experimental psychedelic phases?
You're talking about like
that's another question. How did that happen? Yeah.
Drugs, man. Drugs.
So
drugs and a little bit of Indian culture helped that along as well. and Ravi Shankar bringing the sitar in and all that type of stuff would have made it a bit more. But drugs was your main. See, they'll go on about Lucy in the Sky with Diamond. Lucy in the Sky with Diamond was actually just my son Julian just brought in a painting. I thought, what was that? And I thought that was a beautiful painting. It's Lucy in the Sky with Diamond. Get the fuck out of here, John. It's LSD and you know it is. If you watch the bloody film clip, they've got brains with bloody rainbows flocking through. And even Paul McCartney now, oh no, it didn't mean anything to do with LSD. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it's disappointing if it's not.
Yeah, of course it is.
I agree 100%.
It's a jam band guy.
Yeah, so there was drugs, man, and also
George Martin you mentioned. Oh, you want to say something else?
Yeah, with George Martin and all that type.
Yeah, what was his role? What role as a producer did he play?
Okay, so George Martin before that sort of did big band type of music, but he also this is where it comes back to comedy, right? George Martin produced the Goons. Now, the Goon Show, which Harry Seacombe, Peter Sellers, and Spike Milligan were your main goons, right, was the #1 comedy show. That Prince Charles was obsessed with the Goon, but incidentally, John Lennon was obsessed with. He was a big comedy fan, was obsessed with the Goons, and because he did that, John wanted to sort of hang out with the Goons a little bit. So that helped. George Martin
I think
producing comedy helped.
Was it that show that caused a person to have a heart attack while they were laughing so hard, and that's been credited as the one time someone died
Maybe
of laughter?
Pop. My parents always went on. When I got into comedy, that was the whole thing. You should listen to some Goon albums. Oh, the bloody Goons.
Never heard of the Goons.
My parents had their
Peter Sellers was in it?
Peter Sellers, Spike Milligan, and Harry Seacombe. And Harry Seacombe was no more as a singer, but it was Peter. It was a radio show.
What are some recurring themes in the Beatles lyrics?
It's always like, he loves you, she loves you, I want to, you want to, love is everywhere, love is all you need, love me do, love.
You think they had like one hate song, in there?
No, well, after they broke up, they had some hateful music going on to each other.
That song "Fuck You Ringo" was pretty bad.
Yeah. They had some hateful tunes going on afterwards. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say this question. Like, what country?
Yeah, Hamburg, I think is what you're about to say.
Nah, what country was influential to the Beatles' music?
America.
No, in shaping their later music. Let's say
India.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, well, so part of the privilege of growing up in Liverpool, and even if you go to Liverpool now, that's where the best cocaine is in the UK.
Noted.
Because that's where the harbour is, and that's where all the
noted. You don't do cocaine.
That's where all the shipping containers came in. But also, music wasn't like what it's like now, where you just go online and you learn about a band. The sailors had to bring in albums, and that's why the Beatles were getting the rock and roll music from America a little bit sooner than the folks.
You all know all the answers so far. Okay, let's just.
I've watched that big documentary on the Beatles.
Which Beatle lost his virginity in front of the other bandmates?
What?
I don't know this for sure, but it would have to be George Harrison, because George Harrison was 17 in the band when they were living in Hamburg, and that was like red light district where there was all like hookers and strippers and stuff. So I reckon it was probably he chucked one up someone in a dodgy little closet room in Hamburg. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's what's happened.
Okay.
It wouldn't have been Ringo. Ringo had already plowed a few women by then, and John had already lost his virginity.
Which album
times.
is considered their magnum opus, featuring groundbreaking compositions and production techniques?
Sgt. Pepper would be the one that people regard, but really the music started to change around Rubber Soul and then Revolver. Everyone says Revolver's the best album, but Rubber Soul's where it all sort of begins and shifts.
Which Beatles song is known for its innovative use of backward masking and sparked controversy over alleged hidden messages?
Number 9.
Number 9.
Number 9, but also Tomorrow Never Knows is like the same drawl, like Indian.
What is the significance of the Paul is dead conspiracy theory and the clues fans believed to have found in the Beatles?
What do you mean? What's the significance? So on Sgt. Pepper, there's a lot of things where there's a left-handed bass riff, and they're all looking sad, and then they're pointing at a lyric, and then they're all facing forward, and Paul's facing in a different.
But what was
allegedly what happened when they left the recording studio? Paul had a car accident in the rain driving back from Abbey Road, and he died. And then they seemed to get this other guy, Billy Shears, who was a Paul McCartney lookalike, who turns out can also play instruments and write cracking songs for another 50 years. So that was worked out all right, didn't it?
Yeah.
Hey,
I don't know. I love the Beatles and I listen to them a lot, but I don't know any of this stuff. I know Billy Shears from the songs. I didn't know that's what that was until, if that's correct.
That's the conspiracy.
Which Beatle album was recorded at the same time as the White Album, but never released as originally intended?
Never. That would have been the one with Hey Jude on it, and it's the one where they're sort of standing.
Okay, you got to get one wrong eventually.
Yeah,
so.
or it would be Let It. Well, Let It Be was the last album released, but Abbey Road was the last album recorded.
There's a question here that I might even ask the part in parentheses instead, because it's like, what Beatles song features a complex time signature? It's considered one of the first examples of progressive rock in mainstream music. It was banned by the BBC for its drug references and later became an anthem of the counterculture movement. First example of progressive rock, banned by BBC for its drug references and later became an anthem.
I'll say Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds in.
Lucy in the Sky, okay. What event in the Beatles' history led to the famous rooftop concert, and where was it held? What song did they play?
It was held in London. Well, they played lots of music in the concert. They show it at the beginning of that thing, but Get Back was the main sort of song they seemed, and Don't Let Me Down was seemed to be churned out over and over again.
Where was it? Like, what led to them doing this concert?
They wanted to do a final concert. They hadn't played live together out of the studio for a very long time. They gave up touring because of in America, like the Ku Klux Klan were going to fucking kill them. And
really?
Yeah, they said they were bigger than Jesus. There was John said he was bigger than Jesus, and back then people got worked up by things like that. Like me, I say that all the time. I'd say it right now, bigger than Jesus. Let's try to get some press. Bigger than Jesus.
Better than Jesus. That's about it.
Jesus, hell, fucking hell, these experts.
Sniper.
That was the next question. What is the story behind the Beatles?
I want to hope I'm fatter than Jesus.
Well, at the end, for sure.
Yeah, I never fucking walked up a hill with a big cross on me back.
What is the story between bigger than Jesus? That is the next question.
He said that at that time they were bigger than Jesus. And like to kids, there was more people buying Beatles albums and going to see Beatles concerts than were going to church. And he just said it as a matter of fact type of thing in an interview. And as with interviews now, you get interviewed, and all interviewers are trying to do is trying to catch you out to say something that will make them look fucking
journalism
good.
now,
That's journalism. So they were just clickbaiting him, man.
What is the thing? You ever heard of that? Relating to the Beatles. The thing.
The thing. I like to call it Yoko.
That's the proper name, right? No, there's something called The Thing that relates to the Beatles.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. What is the origin of the name Eleanor Rigby?
Okay. There's the church where Paul met John when the Quarrymen were playing, I believe, and they say that they didn't see this, but I believe there's a tombstone that says Eleanor Rigby on it. And I know that church. When you're in Liverpool, you drive past, you can see it all the time. It's very visible wherever you are.
Who is considered the fifth Beatle?
George Martin, or the lad who played, and I've forgotten his fucking name. You see him in Get Back, he played keyboards, the black guy. I've forgotten his name.
I know his name.
I don't know what this question is supposed to mean, Robert, but we have an error. What did a Beatles concert smell like?
Weed, cigarettes, and teenage girls.
Alcohol.
Like you know what I mean? Like it would be screaming and piss because people would fucking lose the control. Here's a fun one for you. So the Beatles were signed to play Australia before they got famous, and they honoured the concerts. So after they did America, the next bit of their tour was going down under to do some shows in these janky little venues in Australia. Like this is before they figured out they could do Shea Stadium and arenas and stuff like that, right? And so they came down, I believe Ringo was having his tonsils out, and they had this bloke who was going to play the drums, and he just couldn't grow the hair out in time. And he's given it a go. He's combed it forward, but he's not quite there. But they went to Australia, so there's all this sort of, it's long fucking flight now, but it was even longer back then, I'm sure. And the next thing they did after America was tour Australia.
Couple more questions. Who introduced the Beatles to their first experience with LSD and or marijuana?
LSD, a dentist called Dr. Roberts, who they have a song called Dr. Roberts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marijuana, same person?
Marijuana, I don't know. They were doing marijuana long before they were doing marijuana way, like back in 63 and 64.
Okay.
So I don't know. They just tried to keep the cocaine away from Ringo because, big nose and all, hey? I don't know.
Here's a last general question. What challenges and tensions did the Beatles face as a band, both creatively and personally, leading up to their eventual breakup? What caused them to break up?
Okay, well, so if you watch, Get Back, there's a moment where George quits. And Paul, I believe, was probably trying to keep everything together, and he was trying to keep it like he's a real businessman. He was trying to produce a song, do a thing, bring out a song a day. John was coming in with these half-assed sort of songs that he hadn't really finished. George was writing these entire great big songs that they weren't paying attention to, and that's why his next album, My Sweet Lord, or All Things Must Pass, is the album, is filled with bangers, man.
Yeah.
That album is filled with bangers because it's all the stuff that the Beatles were just like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
What's that song? What is that song? That song's awesome.
Well, me, what is
What's that one? I don't know what it's called.
Who am I without your love? That one.
Robert?
It's What Is My Life.
What is my life?
Thank
There you go.
There you go.
Yep.
I don't want to interrupt.
Oh yeah, you can interrupt. Yeah, we're done. I think
We're done.
We're done, right?
You did it right.
How did Jim do on his knowledge of the Beatles? 0 through 10. 10's the best.
I got to give him a 10. I don't even think you need me.
Oh yeah.
Is he the expert?
I know, jeez. No, I think you have some information.
I mean, the thing is the only thing that you didn't get right. So, but I still give you a 10.
Oh, thanks, man.
How do you do on confidence?
Yeah, 10. That was
10.
He knows this.
Yeah, I'll give you 10. 30. Beatles.
Nice, dude.
Right.
Top score. This is even better than Star Wars. For me.
All right, can buy me
Dang.
love.
Who are the Beatles? Give us a brief description of the members and how they got started. Jim said all their names, said the Quarrymen was the original band, but maybe you can tell us some more details, Robert?
Absolutely, yeah. They started out as the Quarrymen, and they had like 20 members that would come in and out of it. And they also became the Silver Beatles with the B-E-E-T, like the real Beatles, and then the Silver Beatles with B-E-A-T-L-E-S. And then finally they landed on the Beatles. But like he said, George, Paul, Ringo, and John all make up the main part of it. But they did have a lot of members like Pete Best, like he said, the drummer Pete Best. And I don't remember the other guys. He had a brain hemorrhage 1 year after leaving the Beatles. Went back to school.
That'll happen to you.
Yeah.
But he wasn't very good, Stu Sutcliffe. Paul McCartney, he was playing the bass, and Paul McCartney's done plug his bass, and he'd be up there just thinking he was going for it.
Yeah. Key milestones and events in the Beatles' career that contributed to the rise to global fame. Jim mentioned Ed Sullivan. You mentioned a lot of stuff, but what would you say are some of the key milestones, Robert?
Absolutely. Ed Sullivan's the number one. It's like, where were you when the Beatles played Ed Sullivan, and where were you when we landed on the moon? Basically, it's like the two biggest things in TV history.
Either of this.
Well, there's a fun fact. I don't know if this is urban legend or whatever, but I've heard George say it in interviews, and that moment the Beatles were on television was the lowest amount of crime in America ever.
Yeah.
Because everyone was watching, or probably because everyone was fucking home, so no one's going to rob your house because everyone's home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like the whole world stopped just to watch it.
Yeah.
That's the main milestone. And when they get the Beatlemania goes crazy after that, and with them experimenting with drugs and moving forward with their career, then their music really changes and becomes psychedelic, and that's really important to culture. And I honestly could say that the 1960s hippie movement probably would not have happened without the Beatles there.
Yeah, because I've heard people say in the past, and by the way, Ed Sullivan Show was what year that they were on?
1963.
64.
Oh, 4.
64. Point off.
Yeah, you got your 9 now.
Yeah, 29 points now. I've heard people say that before, that like, I know some people that like, they say like, Beatles are okay. Which I don't know how you can say. Like,
I hate those fuckwits.
And they say if they didn't exist, somebody would have made the music anyways. And I'm like, that's not a thing.
No. These people who just like, the Beatles suck. Fucking Beatles suck. And it's like, okay. And you go, well, what about this song? What about, that song's good. This song's good. For a band you think sucks, you like 20 of their fucking songs.
Yeah.
And then I go, what's your favourite band? They'll name some, the Kinks or whatever or something, and then they'll be able to name 5 fucking songs. And so the band you hate, 20, and the band you love, 5. Get the fuck out.
And they're probably
out
influenced by them. But
yeah.
So you're agreeing, because that's kind of what you're saying, Robert. Like, obviously, no one's going to recreate. It had to be from these guys. Right?
No, those are hipsters saying that. They're just like, oh, whatever. I hate everything.
Have you ever done the tour, the Magical Mystery Bus tour around Liverpool?
I have not been to Liverpool, unfortunately.
It's a banger. I've taken several different girlfriends over the year on it they're not even that excited, but I still take them. And you go down Penny Lane, and when you're in Penny Lane, you can see there's the barber shop, there's the fire station, all the things that are mentioned where the lady was selling poppies from a thing and all this type of stuff. It's all there. The song's all there. Strawberry Fields is like a gate, just a red gate that looks out into an orphanage where you can look at Strawberry Fields. It was an orphanage backed up onto John's property and that sort of stuff. But this whole idea that them being working class sort of lads, from Liverpool, it's like they were not super poor by Liverpool standards. They came from fairly nice families and all that type of stuff.
That's correct. You're saying, Robert?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. They came from, especially John. He was the one who thought he was like a street urchin or something, but he was not at all.
Yeah, that house now, they could never sell it. I think they made it into a museum. They couldn't sell it because just everyone's standing at the front of it taking photos all the time. And it's just a normal little house. And all the houses on the street fucking look like that house, right?
It's like the Grateful Dead house in San Francisco. There's all these hippies outside taking photos.
Well, there was the bloke who bought the house, and he lived in it for years, and he was sick of people taking dirt from his fucking garden. And it turned out that he used John's room as a fucking storage room. And so it still had, all these years later, 30 years later when he sells it, it still had posters of Bridget Bardot on the
You said at the beginning of this podcast you don't know a lot about the Beatles. That was what you said. You know crazy shit.
He was being humble.
Yeah, trying to be sweet. No, it's awesome. But if you go on this tour, it's fucking, it's a trip, man. It's worth.
You should have asked your harder questions.
It's worth the day out, man. That tour.
Yeah.
Do you want to know why? Because the Strawberry Fields, he went and played with all the kids and that type of stuff. And his auntie used to come home, and his auntie used to go, "You're getting a lot of trouble." And he'd go, "Can you get hung for it?" Because there's still corporal punishment in Britain. And she said, "No." And then there's nothing to get hung about. There you go.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing for like who's the greatest rock and roll band. I mean, if you look it up on the Google, it says the Beatles. So I don't know if that's right or not, but
it is.
The algorithm says.
How can you so the pure
influential?
No, but just the pure workload. So they were famous really for 6 years. For 6 years, they were in the public eye, right? Before they were playing for years before that, and in that 6 years, what did we get? Like 11 or 12 albums or some shit. 13, thank you. See, I don't know everything, right? So you get all these albums that just keep churning out. It's like, I like Oasis, and I was happy if they got me an album every 5 years. I was over the fucking moon.
Led Zeppelin put out a lot of albums. They had a lot of hits.
The only person who comes close is Taylor Swift. I'm not a fan, but that girl seems to churn it out. For quantity, she seems to bring out an album every fucking 6 months. I see that
now
girl.
She's just redoing her own albums.
Yeah, good on her.
King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, they release an album every month.
Do they?
They listen 50 albums in 10 years or something like that.
That's an Australian band, right?
Are they good? I don't know.
You never heard King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard?
Yeah, it's an Australian band. Yeah,
no, I don't know.
They're a jam band, right? Or they're classified as that, or
they go all over the place. Everything.
I think there's a documentary coming out about them or something. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Yeah, they're one of the. They have a following. They have a very big following, but it's.
I think they played the Bowl here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And Red Rocks.
You don't know about Jim.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Good thing it's not a podcast on the King
Gizzard. We got a topic. We're going to have you back on, Robert, about the King Gizzard.
I don't know what it is.
He's going to get a 0 on that one. Also, Australia. Okay.
They play music, you say. Okay.
Is there any other milestones besides Ed Sullivan Show we should...
Ed Sullivan Show, and just when they released all their albums, I mean, every album was almost critically acclaimed. I mean, so
I'll
tell you what's a cool thing to do. The NME magazine, which was around, in the 60s, and this is like the magazine where Elton John put an advert in the back to meet Bernie Taupin, like looking for lyricists. It's like that was the music rag in Britain. They, on I think the 50th anniversary of the Beatles, they released all their original reviews of all the Beatles albums. And then they gave reviews now in hindsight, and it just shows you everything you need to know about reviewers and how cunty they can be.
Yeah.
Because the last 3 albums, when the Beatles weren't the hip band anymore, were just like, oh, let it be. This is complete and utter tripe. Oh, let it be. This song will never fucking do anything. And it was just shitting on them. And now, 50 years later, they're like, yeah, it's a good song, that.
Yeah, we kind of messed up here.
Right.
Yeah.
Music journalism has changed so much. Like I still do music journalism, but I'm still waiting for that call from Rolling Stones because I like to talk a lot of shit about music, and if I don't like you, I'm going to tell you that, and that's just not how it is anymore at all.
Oh, what do they do now?
Puff pieces. Oh, I love it. I love that. That was great. All positive.
Press releases.
Yeah, you kind of have to have the people that say they don't like it. Otherwise,
Pitchchfork does it. Cream Magazine's back.
No, but online does that anyway.
Yeah.
But it was just look. They're reviewing fucking the White Album and saying it's shit. You know what I mean? Like it was just pretentious teenagers getting upset by 30-year-old men.
The musical evolution of the Beatles from the early rock and roll sound to the more experimental and psychedelic phases. Drugs. That's the answer.
Drugs.
It's a little more complicated than that, but that definitely is part of the issue there. But they were into the 50s music, American rock and roll, blues, stuff like that. So they were really influenced like that. So they were like Teddies. So they wore like leather jackets and they put their hair back like Elvis, and they smoked cigarettes on stage and they cussed on stage. There were fights all over the place. There were stabbings at their shows even. So they were kind of a wild bunch until Brian Epstein got a hold of them and I guess talked them into playing the part.
Yeah, they all had to go down to get tailored suits.
Yeah.
And Paul was all for it, but I don't know if the rest of the band's been.
And we can jump ahead here because we were talking about drugs. So who introduced him to LSD? Was it this dentist that Jim said?
Yeah, it was actually a dentist, but his name is John Riley. And Paul and George took their significant others to have coffee with him, and he dosed them actually and didn't even tell them.
So you could do that back then.
Thank John Riley for the 1960s, movement, counterculture movement, because if those two wouldn't have taken that acid right then, it would have never happened like it did.
Were they mad at him, or were they like, wow, thanks a lot? We didn't know we were missing out.
Yeah, they were like upset at first, but then they shared it with the rest of the band too. So,
well, my teeth don't hurt anymore.
You should have seen what this fucking lizard did.
Yeah, take a sip of this. Smell this. And
I've been dosed before, so I get it. It sucks.
Yeah. Oof. Marijuana is who introduced them. I thought Timothy Leary introduced me to LSD, but I don't know any of this stuff. So yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Jim, if you want.
No, I don't know. I don't know. Who
Bob Dylan actually smoked a joint with all of them in like '64 after a concert.
That's why his
and
voice
there's also this
like
other. There's also this other. You can watch it on YouTube. It's John and Bob Dylan, and they meet up, and they can't even talk to each other because they're so high on heroin. It's crazy. Like it's a crazy video.
They're just staring at each other,
trying to pass a kidney stone,
drooling. Oh yeah, I heard you had a kidney stone.
Yeah. Yes. It was unpleasant.
Yeah.
I was on a lot of heroin. I couldn't have talked to Bob Dylan, but I did a show.
Wow.
You could talk to 5,000 people or whatever it was.
I don't remember the one bit of the show. I don't remember.
Yeah, the beginning of the show, we talked about it, Robert. He did a show on a bunch of heroin, got on a plane and got back here, and then we thought it was good, and he was in more pain. And
I passed it.
Oh. Thank goodness, man. Thank goodness. I know that pain.
Have you done it?
Once.
Oh, it's fucking, it's hell. How big was yours?
Very small, a little small one.
Oh yeah, no, I had a 6mm. Sounds like a bullet.
Holy crap!
True.
George Martin, his role as a producer in the Beatles recording process and development of sound. Jim started talking about the Goons comedy show, and
yeah, I didn't know much about that honestly, but George Martin came in and changed their sound completely, and they were doing new types of recording processes. They had like miles of tape that they had to stitch together to make these freaking songs. They spent 700 hours on Strawberry Fields. I mean, so George Martin was there with them through the whole thing.
Yeah. And
he never took drugs or anything, but he was right there producing. Like the psychedelic sound, really, he's the one, like maybe he was just a tool that they were using, but it felt like he was the one pushing it forward. And he never took anything, and the boys wouldn't do it in front of him either because they felt like,
we don't upset Dad.
I was trying to be respectful.
Yeah. They never did joints or anything like that. But there was
what's his name from the Beach Boys? Did he do drugs?
Oh yeah,
Brian Wilson?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. He's completely nuts. So
Yeah.
I thought I was going to use that as a comparison, but forget it. I was going to be like George Martin.
No.
Frank Zappa is your closest non-drug user.
Oh, he didn't do drugs?
No, Frank Zappa.
He said he didn't do drugs.
He never touched drugs, but
he seems like his music.
I've
really
been
sounds
to
like
his
drugs.
house, man. There's fireman poles to get downstairs. There's a tree in the middle of the fucking house, man. He was out there. He didn't need drugs.
Does a Lady Gaga own that now?
Oh, I don't know. She does. This was over a decade ago. I went there for dinner for something.
I'm also a big Frank Zappa fan. So Frank Zappa invited John and Yoko came along to play with him in New York. And they, you can see the video of it, and they're playing, and Yoko gets on the mic and it's just like, ah! And Zappa's like, cut her off. And she goes to the next mic, cut her off. And they actually had someone go into Zappa's vault and steal the tape. And John Lennon released that as his own tape.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, what is that shit she does? Have you ever seen that Chuck Berry clip, too?
Look, she wasn't good, man.
Yeah. Have you seen the Chuck Berry clip?
Yeah, but that's the thing is when she's doing that, it's like, look, you ever had a girlfriend who you're crazy into, and at parties you sometimes have to roll your eyes and go, but...
Yeah, but eventually you got to get in a fight with her and be like, you can't keep doing this. You're embarrassing me in front of my idols. Like, wasn't Chuck Berry like his idol?
Well, look, no, look, I can't speak to this, but there's a lot of talk that John used to slap women around a bit. So who knows? But I can't.
He even said that in his book. Like when one of his things, he used to beat women, and he was very bad to women. Is what he said.
It sounded really bad. I just threw a joke out there, and no one asked that. I said not enough. And then just let it go. I didn't mean that.
Julian Lennon.
Get out of here!
Hit him in the head.
Sorry, Robert. What was that?
Julian Lennon, his son, is actually deaf in one ear because he bashed him in the head.
Oof.
Ah.
Oh, wow.
Okay. That leads into our next
Not a great
question.
guy. Great music.
Well, George is still my favorite one.
Well, he's still a flawed character.
I was at a club called Space in Miami. It's a famous nightclub.
Nice, dude.
He used to be a podium dancer.
Just for one season. But this guy Danny Tenaglia was a DJ there, and he was DJing for like 8 or 9 hours, and it's like this house music and whatever. And my friend was a photographer, so he was in the booth taking pictures. And then here comes Yoko Ono at like 3 a.m.
Sure.
Gets into the booth with Danny Tenaglia, and it's Yoko Ono, so she can do whatever she can just open it. And literally got in there, and everyone's like on lots of drugs. It's like it's 2 or 3 a.m, and it's like, and then she's just like, and everyone's like, what the fuck? Like, this is not. And he's just the DJ. Danny's just sitting there like, yeah, this is great. And everyone has to pretend this is great. And it's like, no.
Well, that's another thing. The NME did a review of Double Fantasy, which is the last album before John died, which was actually the one that got autographed by Chapman. And one half of the album is John Lennon, the other half of the album is Yoko Ono, and they were like this. The John Lennon stuff is just saccharine and this and the real art's coming from Yoko on this one. No one knows one of those fucking Yoko songs. No one sits down and goes, whack me on a Yoko. I want to sit here and just relax a bit. Yeah.
Anyways, so what are some recurring themes in the Beatles lyrics, and how did these themes evolve throughout their career? He loves you, she loves you, love me, do you love me, love you.
Love is definitely a big part of their music, but also it becomes different. In the later '60s, it becomes more about revolution, and there are more cynical songs, obviously. And as their development grows, they get a little bit, wider in what they're talking about. But mostly, it is about love.
Holding hands.
I can't get over how many looks they had, right? So I've been my first comedy special that of any note would be 15 years ago, before that was just a club going. So the last 15 years, there's been a little era where I wore suits.
Suits?
There's been some, on the Jim Jefferies show.
Oh,
and on
I
a
thought you
couple
meant
of
in the
specials.
beginning. I was like, I don't know.
I've had they've had the same haircut. Right?
Yeah.
Like, in 6 years, these cunts went from full fucking beards, caftans, suits to caftans. and then like fucking hippie stuff to handlebar moustaches they just got a lot done. They got a lot done. And then every time you see him in like the documentary, it's like, is the Beatles over? Why haven't you recorded something for a while? We're going to record a song right now. We're going to go into the studio. We've had some time off. Why have you had time off for? And it's like, fucking hell, how fast? Was it because you were all dying of lung cancer in the 60s? Is that what happened? Everyone had to do something quicker because you might be dead soon? It feels like we're slower now.
Probably.
Yeah.
I wish they would have had a ZZ Top phase.
Yeah. John had a big ass beard. There was that
spinning
one.
the guitars.
Yeah.
You look like the ballad of John and Yoko. That like where he's wearing the white suit, where he's got that big fucking beard. He was something else. I've stayed in the John and Yoko suite in the Amsterdam Hilton. And there's a comedy.
I was with you.
There's a comedy club in the basement of the Amsterdam Hilton, and so they give you the suite, and it's like one side of the building is overlooking beautiful canals, and that building is looking over a fucking car park, and it's one of the most expensive hotel rooms in all of Europe because Beatle fans want to stay in this thing, and they let me stay in it.
They haven't washed the sheets, right?
They took down all that stuff, all that artwork of John's where he just sort of wrote hairpiece and bagism and writing like stay in bed and all that type of stuff. The cleaners came in and threw it all away. And each one of those would be worth $100,000 now.
Stay in bed would be. That's my.
Were they ugly?
What, John and Yoko?
So
No, artwork.
I tell you what.
They were pretty ugly.
Yeah, if you watch that one where they're naked on the album cover, big bushes. John and Yoko.
Yeah, that's a rough
if
one.
there was crabs to be had between the two of them, they were passing it back and
beach.
forth.
Yeah.
Or she would have had a tart vagina with all that hair. I tell you, and his dick would have been no holiday. If you were sucking back on his British fucking hooded fucking dick with his big John Lennon bush, there's no winners there.
thoughts,
That
Robert?
picture disgusts me to this day.
It does.
Together.
It does. That was the whole thing. Is the two of them standing there just naked? Just there we are. That's the two of us. That was the best photo for that show. And then John and Ringo was like, "I'm not happy about this photo." And then he's just like, "Don't worry about it, Ringo. You just have to answer the phone." Okay, then.
What happened in India, Robert? What was going on there with the Beatles?
Well, I think that's where you start to see the shift and that kind of the separation of George and John in one sect, and then Ringo and Paul in the other. Because when they went there hanging out with the Maharishi, I don't think that Ringo or Paul took it too seriously.
Well,
they left early.
The Maharishi wasn't in India; it was in Wales. But he was visiting and he had a compound type of thing. And then there was another, was it Wales or something? And then they had another thing because they caught the train down there and they got all fucking, and there was...
You're asking me or Robert, yes, man.
There was, what's her name? Dear Prudence was, what's her name? Married to Woody Allen.
Johnny Prudence?
No, married Mia Farrow's sister. Mia Farrow's sister was Dear Prudence, and when she come out and play, that one she just sat in a fucking kaboot all the time, and she wouldn't come out.
Didn't move.
Yeah, and I think she was probably a good sort, because she was Mia Farrow's sister. She's probably a good sort, and they were like, "Go on, get her out. What's going on with that?" But anyway, they wrote that song about her.
But also changed that was one of the questions actually, and I was like, he's got to know that one. So, but that actually changed the music too, because it became much more spiritual for at least George. I think he really latched onto that tightly. George,
right till the end, was all about like, is there a God? How can I speak to God? Where might God be? And all that sort of stuff, and always questioning. Where I like the Ringo Starr model. If you watch Get Back, everyone else is fucking arguing about my song, this song. Ringo seems to be the only one that shows up on time. He's always sitting there behind. He's got a fag in his mouth and two packets of cigarettes on the side and a thing, and he's just.
I get by with a little help from my
friend.
He's
just when you need for me to come in. He knew he was onto a good thing, I tell you. He knew he was fucking luckiest man in show business.
I was told he was the last one to find out that the Beatles were breaking up. They're like, "Hey Ringo, by the way, we're breaking up." I was like, "What?"
He left them for a small, like a day or something. He had a little hissy fit, and they sent him flowers or something like that. But to this day, Ringo seems to be having the most fun.
Well, he's alive, so he's one of two.
But Paul's having a lot of fun as well. Yeah. So when I moved to Britain, I moved just after 9/11, and so very soon after 9/11, George Harrison died, maybe a few weeks later or a month later or something. I don't have the exact date, right? But I know
2004 is when he passed away.
Oh, okay, so it was way later. Oh, wow, I got that completely wrong.
28 points.
8. Yeah.
Well, I remember because I moved over after 9/11, and then I remember getting.
It was after 9/11.
No, because I had a couple of friends, but I met a new group of friends on the day that George Harrison died, because I went out to Abbey Road and people were singing in the street the day that George Harrison died.
It's 2001. It was November 29th, 2001.
Fucking boom shakalaka. November 2001. I knew it was soon because that was my first group of new friends in England. And they were just like all Beatle fans that asked me to come out and have a drink with them afterwards. And I wasn't a comedian or anything really at that stage, you know. And then I met and I remember thinking, oh, he had a good run. He was fucking like 50-something. He wasn't very old.
Well, he had a good run because he was famous.
But here's another one, right? So I go and see Paul McCartney in concert when I'm about 13.
Where?
One of the first concerts in Sydney. Came out. I believe it was the Hope of Deliverance tour or something, Off the Ground or something, or that might have been the tour afterwards. But I was about 12, 13. And I saw Paul McCartney, and my mother came with me because I was fucking 12 and that bloody big fat woman jumping up and down when he came out. That's a fucking vision I'll never get out of my bloody head, I tell you. Started clapping like a teenager. Holy hell. Anyway, so I came, but I remember I came back to school and a few kids at school were sort of saying I was lame because, you know, it was an old sort of bloke performing. And I remember thinking, well, you know, it's cool that I got to see that guy before he died. And I was saying to my friends, I can't believe how agile he was on stage and how he played the guitar and how he remembered all of his fucking songs. And I thought it was amazing. Anyway, he was my age right now.
Well.
Oh, wow.
Still impressive.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm glad I got that guy before he died.
Well, you know.
What's bigger in Britain, the Beatles or like the King and Queen stuff?
What do you mean? Bigger the royal family or the Beatles?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I don't know. I never
To
lived
who?
there.
Yeah.
To the people who live
It's a
there.
weird question.
Because people, there's this Beatle mania. People were freaking out, crying, seeing the Beatles. People freak out, cry, seeing the Queen.
The Beatles are the biggest
They cry
music
a lot
act to
there.
come from England, and then the Queen's the big. I'll tell you what.
So who do you think has
Okay,
like more? Who do you
I'll
think
tell-
care about more? The Beatles or the Queen?
The Queen is bigger than Queen.
All right, we got to get through some questions. All right. Which Beatle lost his virginity in front of the other bandmates? Who was that? Was that George Harrison?
He took a shot in the dark and he got it right. They were all cheering him on and clapping him, and
Yeah.
and this was in Hamburg actually as well.
Hamburg, yeah.
He said Hamburg.
Yeah.
What album
He
is
was
off?
16 or 17.
Yeah, 16, 17.
Oh, okay.
This is one of the things I always think about as well. My parents would have never let me leave school to go tour with a band in pubs in Germany when I was 16. Like, how fucking lax was the Harrison household? And thank fuck they let him do it.
Yeah.
But not a chance in hell my parents at 16 would have gone, what are you up to? I'm going to go play in pubs. What? In the red light district in Germany.
Okay, have fun.
All right, then.
And get my dick wet.
Send us a postcard.
What album is often considered the Beatles' magnum opus, featuring groundbreaking compositions and production techniques? Is it Sgt. Pepper's? Or
Absolutely, Sgt. Pepper's all the way. But I mean, honestly, he was right, and I was going to say this. It all starts with Rubber Soul, and John Lennon called that the Pot album. So that's where it starts, and then Revolver after that is also just groundbreaking. That's my favorite.
What were they gonna call Rubber Soul? There was another name or something. We were talking about it the other day.
Were we?
It was like some quiz show. They said the original name.
Oh.
But it was dog shit.
no.
Did you know about that Australian guy, the Australian tour with the guy who had his tonsils, with Ringo getting his tonsils taken out, and they had that bloke?
I did not know that at all.
Okay, you got to Google this guy, right? The Australian tour, the drummer who replaced Ringo on the Australian tour, 1964, because this cunt, you can tell he's been given the job 2 weeks earlier, and he's doing his very best with the haircut. He's really trying.
Jimmy Nicol.
Jimmy Nicol.
Oh, yeah. He's not good. He looks sort of like Michael Sheen.
Yeah. Jimmy Nicol's a scary looking cunt.
What's his name?
Shannon.
Shannon.
Yeah, Michael Shannon, yeah. Yeah, Jimmy Nicol.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never to be heard of again.
Good gig.
And the other guy, Pete Best, he went on to be a baker. How many times do you reckon people have gone into his fucking bakery going, weren't you in that? Yes, I was. And part of his problem was he wouldn't do the fucking haircut. He wouldn't put the hair down. That was part of the reason he got fired, yeah. Do the haircut, cunt.
So
do it.
The song with backward masking, spark controversy over alleged hidden messages was Revolution 9, right? Correct?
I said number 9.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, that one. That actually has the Paul is dead thing in it, actually. They reversed it. It says Paul is dead, Paul is dead.
And that's where it started, or they were leaning into it then? Is that what the...
Well, the whole thing was kind of a conspiracy mythology type thing that started like maybe 10 years after Paul McCartney had an accident. He wrecked his car and they said, oh, he died. And MI5 came and they're replacing him with, I forget his name, is William Campbell, actually. They had a contest where they would see who was the closest lookalike to Paul, and William Campbell won. And was never heard from again, but why would you hear from him anyway? But some of the conspiracy talks about when they're walking across the road there, they look like they're one's like a berry and the other one, and they're like, Paul isn't wearing shoes, so he's supposed to be dead, and then he's supposed to have some sort of scar on his ear that's different, and I honestly don't believe it at all. It's fun to look at.
So maybe they were like leaning into it. That's what I was thinking.
I think at certain stages,
yeah.
especially with like Sgt. Pepper's, they were leaning into it just to take the piss. But the Abbey Road one is that he has no shoes on. So even when you get buried, if it's an open casket, you don't have shoes on. Everyone else had shoes on. He was holding a cigarette. The rest of them aren't. New album covers now, they've gotten rid of the cigarette. Which what are we doing?
Really?
Yeah. And he was out of step. The other ones were all leading with another foot. He was either leading with his left foot, but he was left-handed. So and George Harrison was in denim, looking like a grave digger. Ringo was looking like a mourner in black, and John was looking like a funeral director in white.
I think it was.
But I've never seen a funeral director wearing a whole white suit in my whole life. And
or is he supposed to be Jesus or some spiritual guide?
Could be Jesus. Could be Jesus.
I think it was the Abbey Road doc on Disney where they showed the other options they had for the Abbey Road photo. It's just the progress of them walking across, and that was just the one that.
Well. If you've been to that crossing, it's in Swiss Cottage. Look, it's not good for traffic.
No, it's very bad.
Right?
None of that shit. None of those type of things. And there's the crookedest street in the world in San Francisco.
Yeah,
it's like that.
So dumb,
and if you drive anywhere near there's a fucking line. And
there's people crossing all the time, and there's a crossing a little bit further up, and no one's quite sure which crossing it's meant to be. I think it's the back one. But there's people all the time from all over the world trying to cross this fucking thing, including when Paul McCartney's in town. He can't. I have a theory on Paul McCartney that he fucking loves being famous. I reckon he loves it.
That's not a theory.
I think that he's a guy that's been famous since he was 18. And he doesn't know any other way. Like, I met him and he lives his life out in the public, man. He catches the tube, that cunt. He goes down to the Improv Comedy Club to watch comedy and just sits there. Like, this isn't a man who doesn't like being bothered. Like,
he just used the regular bathroom.
Yeah, he used the regular bathroom. All right, it's great to be here. Watching a few comedians. You know what I mean? A
lot of people say he's an asshole.
Well, so I met him. And it was me, Aziz Ansari, Chris D'Elia,
Judd
Apatow, right? So the four of us all knew he was in the bathroom. So the four of us went and stood. And the four of us don't hang at any, we were just the other comics,
I've done this before too.
Yeah. And so we hung out the front of the bathroom and just sort of stood around and sort of had our phones. And he came out and he was the most famous person you'll ever meet. And he gave us all 4 or 5 seconds, and he kept moving so he couldn't take a photo. And he came out and he literally went, I didn't know I was going to meet all these superstars out here. Oh, wow, you're here. Look at you. You're dirty. Your jokes are dirty, he said to me. Wow. Oh, Judd, love your movies. And he shook all of our hands and he was fucking gone.
Yeah.
And we were like, what? That was dark. It's like awesome. I have very few core memories that if when I have dementia, I'll remember, and I'll always remember that.
That's really cool.
I know Phil Collins hates his guts because when Phil Collins first met him, he was like, "Oh, Phil, are you a little starstruck?" And he's like, "Fuck you."
I tell you what, he seemed to be very upset about...
I heard Phil Collins was the dick, though.
He seemed to be very upset about Jimmy Buffett dying. He couldn't say enough nice words about Buffett.
People like Buffett.
He fucking loved Buffett. And also, you know what I like about McCartney is McCartney. He still hits the weed. Like he doesn't apologize for it. And also, I've got my opinions on the one-legged woman that he married as well.
All right, let's go through some of these questions.
Were you saying something? Shared those opinions.
Yeah, we don't use a bedpan. Fucking hop to the bathroom.
We got to get through these. All right. Were you saying something, Robert, before we keep going? Or
No, you're good. Keep going.
The album that was recorded at the same time as the White Album, but never released.
Lost a leg.
But was never released as originally intended. Was it the one with Hey Jude? I don't know what that's.
Let's get back to the album, but I don't think it didn't have Hey Jude on it.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
what album is Hey Jude on then?
Your
White Album. I don't want to look it up while I'm talking to you guys.
Me, sorry. Oh, that was something else.
Yeah. You're a very violent sneezer.
Oh, I don't like people saying bless you because I do multiple sneezes, and I feel like when someone says bless you, you have to thank them for doing that. I just don't want to thank anyone. I just want to sneeze and move on with my day.
Yeah. Okay. It says here in the note that Hey Jude's the title of the album. Is that proper?
There we go.
It's a compilation album.
Yeah. It was like the album, the song didn't get onto any of the other albums, and it was just sort of...
Hey Jude. Beatles song that features a complex time signature is considered one of the first examples of progressive rock in mainstream music. It was banned by the BBC for its drug references and later became an anthem of counterculture movement. You said Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, Jim.
I'm wrong on this one.
Yeah.
It's actually a day in a life because it has all those progressive movements and it talks about shootings and cigarettes and some other stuff in there.
That's so funny that would have been controversial back then. Cigarettes. Cigarettes
and coffee.
Cigarettes weren't bad there, but woke up, got out of bed.
Yeah, I know, but still, compared to what is in songs.
But
now.
Also that bit, like John Lennon's bit of that song is fantastic, and Paul's bit's a bit weak as piss in it. I think anyway.
I like the whole song.
I still listen to it. Yeah,
I don't turn it off.
I don't get that deep into the Beatles where I'm like, fucking Paul, you suck. I just like the song.
I'm a big hater of people who shit on Paul too much because I'm like, you fucking don't know shit if you think Paul's terrible or John's awesome and bullshit.
So the famous rooftop concert, where was it held? I don't know if you ever told me that, Jim.
In London.
London, okay. And what song or songs did they play, and why did they do that? Was it because they gave up touring because the KKK was going to kill them? Or?
I don't know about the KKK was going to kill them. They actually had a show in Fort Lauderdale when they came here, and they made it be unsegregated, or they were not going to play. So that was a big deal in the South. But the famous rooftop concert was in 1969 at Apple Corps in London on top of their studio. And they didn't tell anybody they were going to do it. So the cops are just like, well, we got to stop this. And they played Get Back, Don't Let Me Down, I've Got a Feeling, One After 909, and Dig a Pony.
Yeah, you know what they should have done is, because like, you know when you go to a concert and they're just playing new songs? Just fucking give us I Want to Hold Your Hand at the end. Come on, lads, just for the encore.
It's such the opposite of comedy. If you're like we got old jokes, you're like, what the fuck? I heard these already.
Yeah.
Songs are like only the old
stuff.
What's
that? The Beatles? Oh, God, they're playing new songs, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of comedy too, and I've been watching Jim for years since I was like a kid, to be honest.
You like his new stuff?
That makes me feel old. I've just gotten to that age where people start doing that to me, man. They come.
I'm 36.
Well, that's the whole thing. So. Like I'm a decade older, and so when you're 36 and I'm 46, that doesn't mean a lot when we meet each other now. But when I'm 26 and you were a 16-year-old lad, I was a man, and you were a kid. It was a big deal, right? And so
I was looking up to you, man. I was looking up to you.
There's a lot of people who do that. Like, I've been watching you since I was 14 years old, and you're like, all right, I'm fucking old.
Yeah. Okay. Be better parents.
Yeah. Well, that's what also started happening with my gigs is now when I look out the audience, loads of fathers and sons. I'm a bridge comic for guys who are about 50 with their 20-year-old sons. They both go and me and Dad are going to go do it. I kind of like that. I think that's a sweet thing.
Oh, here's the thing Jim didn't know. What is the thing? Tell us what that is, Robert.
Okay, in Hamburg, they had an apartment, and they all stayed in it together, and they would puke or put trash or whatever they could find in the corner, and it became this grotesque monster, like with mold all over it, and it was like 3 feet tall and in the corner, and they kept it for about 3 months and had a funeral for it.
And it was called The Thing.
Yeah, damn straight.
That's what 16 and 17-year-olds do. They also,
Best band
this
ever.
one I didn't want to add here, but I made a TikTok video about this one, and everybody says, oh, now you want to have a jerk circle with the Beatles because they actually would get together and masturbate together.
That's how that
they would call out names like Richard Bardot.
Yeah,
they call out the names?
Well, that was the whole thing. It was before porn was readily available. So, you have to do what you could do.
If you're having a circle jerk, you're like, right now we're all jerking off to Bridget Bardot.
Yeah, if it was dark, you go, naked ladies.
And then someone would yell, the Queen or something. Or,
you've ruined it. Oh, I've come.
Yeah, that's the thing in the corner.
And so there's still girls that came back to have sex with George.
Sure. What's that smell?
Here's our mouldy pile of things.
Yeah. I can think of a worse jerk circle, to be honest.
What is the origin of the name Eleanor Rigby? Jim said there's a tombstone, a church where John met Paul, a tombstone. Is that right?
That's actually the myth, but they said there is a tombstone. I've never been there. They say there is a tombstone there, but he said that that's just a myth. At first, he said he was looking at, he just liked the name, but he had thought about Eleanor Braun, who was starred with the Beatles in the film Help, and later changed it to Rigby from the name of the store he stopped at in Bristol. Rigby and Evans.
It's my most disliked Beatles song. It's the one I skip all the time. I understand how people would like it, but it always brings me down, man.
I like that song.
It's a little depressing.
I like depressing music.
It doesn't have like a great hook. Look at all the lonely people. I don't know. It's not one where you go, oh yeah, bit of a banger.
And the fifth Beatle, was that George Martin?
But that's actually up to your decision. Some people actually say it could be Eric Clapton, but once he took Patty Boyd, I don't think that really worked out. But actually, Billy Preston.
Billy Preston was the name.
The guy, the keyboard player,
that was the name
on the rooftop. And Get Back.
I don't know if you have the answer to this question. It was just in here. What did the Beatles concert smell like? Jim said cigarettes and piss.
Yeah, but he got it right. Piss. There's actually a lot of quotes from people saying that the young girls would wait at the front and they wouldn't want to leave. Probably even the boys, and they would just piss themselves when they had to go. They're so excited! It's the Beatles. I'm gonna piss myself. And so rivulets of piss would just drip off the floor, and pretty gross.
Yum.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
The challenges. What's
my
that?
gigs don't smell like that.
Challenges and tensions the Beatles face as a band, both creatively and personally, leading up to their eventual breakup. Jim said in the Get Back doc, George quits. I don't know.
There's a lot of things that brought that. It was all of them. They were all doing their own things. They were all separating from each other. They were either on drugs or marrying some lady and taking care of her kid or whatever. And they were just really busy with doing their own stuff, and they just kind of separated. And it's just watching a band fall apart on Get Back. You can see it all.
Very tough.
It's not Yoko, not all Yoko, but I mean, her presence has got to be somewhat off-putting.
Yeah, I blame her.
Oh, it's just having someone fucking sitting there the whole fucking time is a pain in the bloody neck. You know what I mean? But it's well, who was it? Was it Abbott and Costello said, "Never let the wives play." Right? And he told that to Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin, and they didn't listen. Because every time Dean Martin would cheat on his wife and fucking run off with someone, Jerry Lewis's wife was disappointed in Dean, and it made Jerry Lewis, it made it harder for him to go to fucking work each time. Right. So anyway, I don't know. I don't think the Beatles' wives ever hung out that much, did they? I don't know.
Ask them.
Some.
Now is part of our show called Dinner Party Facts. We ask our guests to give us some sort of fact that's obscure, interesting about the subject that they can impress people with. What do you got for us, Robert?
Sure. I've got Ed Sullivan was actually not their first American TV debut. In 1963, they were on the Hunter Brinkley Report. So that's something that most people don't even know that they
report. Doesn't even sound fun.
I've never heard that. Never knew that.
Yeah, and they also recorded their first album in just one day. 10 songs in one day.
Wow.
That's why at the end, the last song they recorded was Twist and Shout, and that's why his voice sounds teared to shreds.
Yeah.
And he was drinking a glass of milk, and the blood came out in the milk.
No way.
I don't think that's a good drink when you're singing.
No, it's really
It's supposed to cool your throat, coat your throat because it was bloody.
Oh, okay.
Well, Robert Fadley, thank you for being here. You can find Robert on TikTok at JamBandPurist or his website, jambandpurist.com. Check that out. Yeah, thank you for being here.
Thanks.
And all the social medias. Thank you, guys. I hope to see you soon.
I
Jim,
appreciate
keep
it,
killing
man. Come to a gig sometime, man, if I'm ever in a town.
I'll see
that
you in
you're
December.
Yeah, I told him.
In DC.
All right, yeah, we'll see you then.
Yeah, we're
we'll
gonna
hang
get
out
tickets.
then. Ladies
Sounds
and
great.
gentlemen, thank you for coming to listen to the podcast today. If you're ever at a party and someone says the Beatles not very good, you go, well, I don't know about that, and walk away. Never see that cunt again. Okay. Good night, Australia.